Aiden Williams stands in the courtroom, hands trembling as the two officers who arrested him snicker from the witness stand. The judge's gavel slams down, demanding order as the courtroom doors burst open. A tall figure in an impeccable suit walks in with an entourage of agents. The officer's laughter dies instantly when the stranger places a hand on Aiden's shoulder and says, "That's enough. This is my son." Before I dive into this shocking story, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe if you want to see more stories about justice being served to those who abuse their power. Now, let's rewind to see how this powerful courtroom moment came to be. 16-year-old Aiden Williams was walking home from his advanced placement study group in the affluent neighborhood of Oak Ridge, a place where people like him supposedly didn't look like they belonged. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the perfectly manicured lawns of multi-million-dollar homes as Aiden adjusted his backpack filled with calculus and physics textbooks. He'd stayed late working on a group project, his mind still processing complex equations when he noticed the police cruiser slowing down beside him. Officers Brennan and Matthews had been patrolling the area when they spotted him, a black teenager in a neighborhood that was 98% white. Officer Brennan, a stocky man with 20 years on the force and a reputation for keeping the peace, nudged his partner. "Look at this one. Definitely doesn't live around here," he muttered, as Matthews, younger but eager to impress his senior partner, nodded in agreement. They followed Aiden in their patrol car for 3 blocks, close enough that Aiden could hear the low rumble of the engine behind him. His heart rate quickened. His parents had given him the talk when he turned 12 about how to behave if ever stopped by police. Keep your hands visible, speak respectfully, move slowly, don't argue. The cruiser's lights suddenly flashed as the siren chirped twice. "Hey, you, stop right there," Officer Brennan called through the window. Aiden stopped immediately, turning slowly with his hands clearly visible at his sides. "Good afternoon, officers. Is something wrong?" he asked, his voice steady despite the adrenaline now pumping through his system. Officer Matthews exited the vehicle, hand resting on his holstered weapon. "You match the description of a suspect in the area. What are you doing in this neighborhood?" Aiden swallowed hard. "I'm walking home, sir. I live on Maple Avenue with my parents. We moved here 3 months ago. I was at a study group at the library." Officer Brennan had joined his partner now, circling Aiden like a predator. "Sure you do, kid. Got some ID on you?" Aiden nodded. "Yes, sir. In my wallet. I'm going to reach for my back pocket now, okay?" The officers exchanged amused glances at his careful narration. "Well, aren't you well trained?" Brennan smirked. Aiden slowly retrieved his school ID, which showed his name and photo, but not his address. "This doesn't prove you live here," Matthew said, flicking the ID card dismissively. "I can call my father if you'd like to verify my address," Aiden offered, trying to remain calm. This suggestion seemed to amuse the officers even more. "Oh, your daddy is gonna vouch for you? What's he do around here? Mow lawns? Clean pools?" Brennan laughed and Matthews joined in. Aiden felt heat rising in his face, but remembered his father's words, "Your dignity matters more than their ignorance." "My father works for the federal government," he said simply. This only made the officers laugh harder. "Sure he does, kid. Probably cleaning toilets at City Hall," Matthews snorted. Aiden reached slowly for his phone. "I can call him right now." He never finished the sentence. Officer Brennan suddenly lunged forward, grabbing Aiden's arm and twisting it behind his back. "He's reaching for something," he shouted, though the phone was clearly visible in Aiden's hand. Within seconds, Aiden found himself slammed against the patrol car, his face pressed against the hot metal. "I was just getting my phone," he gasped as Brennan roughly handcuffed him. "Yeah, that's what they all say," Matthews replied, taking the phone and pocketing it. "Resisting arrest and suspicious behavior in a residential area." As they loaded him into the back of the patrol car, Aiden tried once more. "Please, my father works—" Matthews cut him off with a laugh. "Let me guess. FBI, CIA, maybe he's the president." Both officers howled with laughter as they slammed the door. Through the partition, Aiden could hear them continuing to mock him. "These kids and their stories," Brennan chuckled. "Federal government, that's a new one." They took his backpack as evidence, rifling through his AP homework and advanced textbooks. "Probably stole these from some rich kid," Matthews commented, ignoring the fact that Aiden's name was written inside each book. As the cruiser pulled away, Aiden caught a glimpse of Mrs. Henderson, his elderly neighbor, watching from her porch with a concerned expression. He hoped she would call his parents, but the cruiser turned the corner and the familiar streets of his neighborhood disappeared from view. The fluorescent lights of the police station buzzed overhead as Aiden was led through processing, his wrists still bound by handcuffs that bit into his skin. The station smelled of industrial cleaners, stale coffee, and a lingering scent of desperation that seemed embedded in the very walls. "Name," barked the intake officer without looking up at his computer. "Aiden Williams," he replied, his voice quiet but clear. The officer snorted. "Speak up, boy. This isn't your classroom." Aiden repeated his name louder, fighting to keep his voice from trembling. After taking his fingerprints and a mugshot, instructing him not to smile, as if Aiden had any reason to, they placed his personal belongings in a plastic bin. "I need to call my father," Aiden said, for what felt like the 100th time. The intake officer yawned dramatically. "Phones are a privilege, not a right. You'll get your call when we process you fully." Aiden knew his rights. One phone call was standard procedure, but arguing seemed dangerous in this environment where he was already viewed as a problem. Officer Matthews appeared, seemingly energized by the situation. "Got one of those honor roll thugs," he announced to the room, guiding Aiden with unnecessary force through the station. Several officers looked up, some with interest, others with the weary recognition that something unusual was happening. "Claims his daddy works for the government," Matthews continued, triggering chuckles from his colleagues. "Probably the same government that sends him a welfare check," someone called out, eliciting more laughter. Each step through the station felt like walking a gauntlet of prejudice. Aiden kept his eyes forward, his face a careful mask, hiding the storm of emotions beneath. Fear, anger, humiliation, and beneath it all, a growing sense of resolve. They finally reached a holding cell where Officer Matthews removed the handcuffs with a rough twist. "Welcome to your new presidential suite," he said, shoving Aiden inside and slamming the door with a metallic clang that echoed through the room. The cell contained a metal bench, a toilet with no privacy screen, and one other occupant, an older black man with salt and pepper hair and tired eyes that had seen too much. He looked up as Aiden entered, assessing him with a glance. "First time?" he asked after the officer left. Aiden nodded, rubbing his wrists where the handcuffs had left angry red marks. "Jerome," the man said, simply, offering no last name. "Aiden," he replied cautiously, taking a seat on the bench, leaving appropriate distance between them. "What they get you for?" Jerome asked, though his tone suggested he already knew. "Existing in the wrong neighborhood," Aiden said with a bitter edge he couldn't quite suppress. Jerome nodded sagely. "Ah, the classic walking while black charge. Very serious offense in these parts." His sarcasm held no humor, only the weight of experienced truth. For the next hour, Jerome quietly educated Aiden on survival tactics for dealing with the system: when to speak, when to stay silent, what rights they could ignore, and which ones they couldn't. "Your first lesson," Jerome said, leaning forward slightly, "is that the law on paper and the law in practice are different animals. Your second lesson is that patience is your strongest weapon right now." Meanwhile, across town, FBI Director David Williams was in the middle of a high-level operation briefing. Seated at the head of a conference table in a secure room deep within the FBI headquarters, he listened intently as his team discussed the final stages of a 2-year investigation into a sophisticated money laundering operation. David was known for his laser focus and unflappable demeanor, qualities that had propelled him to the highest position in the Bureau despite the systemic barriers that had attempted to hold him back throughout his career. His dark suit was impeccably tailored, his posture perfect even after 12 hours on duty. "The simultaneous raids need to be coordinated down to the second," he was saying, when a knock interrupted the meeting. His new assistant, Agent Reina Torres, entered with an apologetic expression that immediately caught David's attention. In their line of work, unscheduled interruptions usually meant significant developments. "Excuse me, Director Williams," she said, her voice professional but urgent. "There's a message regarding your son that requires immediate attention." Something in her eyes told him this wasn't a routine matter. David maintained his composed exterior while his mind immediately shifted to his family. With a slight nod, he addressed the room. "Continue mapping out the coordination sequence. I'll be back." In the hallway, Agent Torres handed him a note with the details regarding Aiden. He'd been arrested in their neighborhood on suspicious behavior charges. No phone call had been allowed. They'd only learned of it because a neighbor had witnessed the arrest and contacted Catherine, his wife, who was currently in court herself on a case. David's expression revealed nothing as he processed this information, but those who knew him well would have recognized the slight tightening around his eyes, the only outward sign of the controlled fury building within. Thank you, Agent Torres. Please inform Deputy Director Clark that I'll need him to take over the briefing. Have my car brought around. As Agent Torres hurried to carry out his instructions, David made several private calls. First to his wife, then to his personal security detail, and finally to the Office of the Attorney General. Each conversation was brief, measured, and purposeful. David Williams hadn't become the first Black FBI director by reacting impulsively to injustice. He'd learned to channel his responses through the system he had spent decades navigating and reforming from within. Now that system would work for his son. As he ended the last call, David's thoughts turned to Aiden, a brilliant, gentle boy with his mother's sharp mind